Welcome to this session. It is going to be recorded for your information. My name is Dr. Teresa Leary Handy, and I will be the moderator for this ADEIL conference session called Unlocking Belonging at the Onset of Higher Education. Before we begin, on behalf of ADEIL, I'd like to thank our host, Troy University, and our technical coordinator, Marcy Shirley, who is also from Troy University. We are thankful for their contributions in making this event possible. And thank you for joining us for Unlocking Belonging at the Onset of Higher Education. Please welcome Toby Attah, who is going to be your presenter today.
Hello, everybody. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thank you so much, Teresa, Troy University, and everybody for joining today's conversation. Just to give you guys a brief introduction of myself, and just so you can have a little bit of my background. I earned my bachelor's degree at Cornell University, where I studied communications with a minor of business administration. And I was also a part of the varsity Cornell track and field team at Cornell, and that was one of my biggest passion areas. I'm a big avid sports fan. I'm not sure if you guys saw the Cowboys game this weekend. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm from Dallas. It was a doozy. We lost 47-9, I believe. So that was hurtful. But anyway, moving on. After completing my degree at Cornell University, I went on to pursue an advanced degree at Syracuse University, earning a master's degree in media and education. And I learned a lot of skills that helped me navigate different ways to leverage media and other digital technologies that help drive innovation and experiential learning here at UAGC. And then currently, I'm a doctoral student here at University of Arizona Global Campus, pursuing my PhD in organizational leadership and management. And I was even fortunate enough to earn an annual entrepreneurship scholarship in 2022 from Forbes School of Business Technology after explaining my roles and responsibilities as an entrepreneur. And then just for personal hobbies, I like to consider myself a storyteller and a writer. I published about 3 children's books. The last one I published was actually last month in September. So we can always connect offline if that was something you want to learn more about. And now I want to get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation today, opening this presentation by first addressing the importance of belonging in higher education. When doing some research, Glebe et al. 2024 highlighted how there's often an adjustment period for students when entering college remotely. Without the luxury of meeting other students, faculty, and tutors in person, there can sometimes be a sense that there might not be support systems available as an online student. And this can typically lead to feelings of doubt among remote and online students, potentially negatively impacting the onset of their higher education journey. So to further highlight common challenges students may face, I'll go ahead and break it down into 3 points. That way it's easy to follow for everyone. First, we should address how in some online institutions, incoming students of all ages can sometimes lack proficiency in literacy. At UAGC, according to spring 2023 ETS performance results, about 75% of students entering UAGC may lack proficiency in literacy skills such as reading and writing. And as you can see in this chart here, not all proficiency levels, they're not proficiency levels from this data set far exceed those with marginal or proficient literacy skills. And of course, that's just the first potential challenge. The second challenge I wanted to address is the imposter syndrome when entering college. UAGC and many other online institutions don't typically require an entrance exam to get accepted, and this may increase feelings of imposter syndrome as education is often seen as a risk both financially and emotionally for incoming new students. And finally, for my last point, students may not be familiar with just how supportive their school is. UAGC uniquely uploads a culture of care, and it's something that students greatly benefit from, so long as they stay communicative with their instructor and stay on top of their coursework. So I thought it would be cool to have a little exercise to see how these 3 common challenges I just addressed may intersect, so we can highlight areas to explore and encourage educational advancement online. First, we'll go ahead and take a look at the intersection here on the right, which highlights the importance of an instructor proactivity and addresses how students may be less inclined to reach out and for support from their instructor. So when it comes to instructor proactivity, as I mentioned, Tobenna et al. Highlighted how an instructor's effectiveness in online teaching largely depends on how they strategically utilize communication technology with their students. In my experience, I found that students are less inclined to reach out for support, and whether that's because they may lack proficiency and confidence in their writing, especially communicating, offhand or with the professor outside of assignments, or senses of imposter syndrome, it can impact how they choose to interact or not interact with their instructor. And as an online adjunct faculty myself here at UAGC, I can think of many instances where I had to readjust how I typically teach and reach out to students to help them more effectively, ultimately impacting how they performed in their course. And I think, like I said at the beginning, I'm a storyteller. So I think this recent story I've experienced with grading management system here at UAGC and Waypoint or Turnitin highlights the benefits of being a proactive educator. So many different schools use different grading management systems, but here at UAGC, we use something called Waypoint, which is an essential online system that we use to manage grades, allow students to upload their assignments so they can get direct instructor feedback on their assignments. And the system can also detect plagiarism among many other features. And I'm sure your educational institution uses some sort of grading management system similar. Well, I bring up Waypoint because in my experience, I've found that certain students are not as familiar with grading management systems such as Waypoint, especially at the onset of their educational journeys. I would probably say about 1 in 10 students I teach have some challenges with Waypoint. In my Gen 101 course, which is meant to be an introductory course intended to help students become more familiarized with the UAGC resources available to them. So one particular time, a student of mine kept uploading her assignments to Waypoint, but these assignments appeared to be corrupted every single time I tried to grade them. She never reached out to me even after I marked their assignments as missing. So in the nature of instructor proactivity, I took a proactive approach as soon as possible by reaching out, seeing with the student how I can help them, or how the UAGC's helpline can help them for any technological challenges they may be experiencing. And unfortunately, she still continued to see challenges after my suggestion. And I took it upon myself, being more proactive, to reach out to the campus helpline and get the student in the queue when it helped, or in the queue so it could help them more effectively. And after speaking with the helpline myself, it turned out that there was an error on the student's end where they were uploading their assignment, or they were downloading their assignment as a Word online file through their browser and attempted to save the entire Word document through the internet when you're supposed to be uploading your assignments as a Microsoft Word, the .docx file to Waypoint. So after we were able to overcome that challenge, it led to the student being able to see my comprehensive feedback in Waypoint and help guide them in completing their coursework. And it was a great moment for both me and the student because we were able to help her overcome her challenges, uploading her assignments to Waypoint, which is tangential to your experience as a student here at UAGC. And this story helps illustrate the importance of instructor proactivity at the onset of a student's journey in higher education. Because when students are less inclined to reach out for support, whether it's through imposter syndrome or lacking literacy, the instructor is in a position to make a meaningful difference in their academic experience by taking a proactive approach. So great, now that we're back at our Venn diagram and completed the right intersection here, let's go ahead and move on to the intersection of imposter syndrome when entering college and emphasizing a culture of care. And this involves unique personalized feedback from which students can benefit from. So it's important to note how a student-centered approach to online instruction often leads to more meaningful interactions between instructors and students. Utilizing resources like SWOT analyses and SMART goals to give students personalized feedback can bode well for their long-term success. I'm curious if you guys wanted to put into the chat, and then we can go over some of these later because I like sharing different insights based on what you guys find successful. Have you guys has anyone in the audience used any other mind mapping strategies similar to SWOT analyses or SMART goals? It could be the Myers-Briggs test or type focus test, anything that you found, whether it's in your own personal or professional experience, that helped you identify things such as your own strengths, weaknesses, and other attributes that might be relevant to your academic success. Anyway, to share another example about one of my previous students in my Gen 101 course, I've had a student complete a SWOT analysis in their first week of learning. The course learning objective for week one of this course was to ensure that students identify their own personal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in relation to their academic journey that they're willing to embark on. This exercise allows me to start providing personalized feedback from the jump for students at the very beginning of their first course here at UAGC. Now, for example, a student of mine in the past has used the SWOT analysis to explain how one of their weaknesses was the fact that they had trouble reading American English and had an easier experience hearing it when it was spoken. And feedback like this that comes in through exercises such as the SWOT analysis make it easy for me to adapt. And thanks to modern technology, I was able to provide more personalized feedback for the student by providing voice notes and video responses to the students' discussion posts and assignments. This approach I found to be highly appreciated and effective by my students, as I was happy to be able to make their experience more meaningful and accommodating at the onset of their journey in higher education. So we're back at our Venn diagram. Before I go to the next section, I was wondering if there's anything in the chat, Teresa, if there's anything other strategies that we may consider or that other people have used that might be successful. But if not, we can move forward. Let me see if I can see the chat. I don't think I can. If not, no problem. We'll just go ahead and continue. Um, so the last overlapping section between emphasizing the culture of care and lacking proficiency would be highlighting the importance of making students aware of university resources available to them as early as possible. So when it comes to maximizing the resources available to students in an online institution, academic outcomes are usually affected by how students perceive their online learning environments and how successful engagement strategies are implemented. So I always encourage educators to familiarize themselves with at least 3 to 5 specific resources their institution provides for students for free. Also, it's important to strategically mention these university resources in a way that makes it easy for a student to engage with, whether it's mentioning it via assignment feedback or just in an offhand conversation. I'll go ahead and review a select few of my favorite UAGC resources that I recommend to students in every one of my Gen 101 courses. But as last time, I would also love to hear some of you all's favorite resources at your own respective universities that you may have utilized that are useful for students. And you can go ahead and put that in the chat. For starters, if a student has a minor grammatical oversight in their assignments, I'll kindly refer them to use Grammarly. As I mentioned, UAGC provides Grammarly Pro or Premium through their UAGC email. And I find that mentioning this resource directly in assignment feedback as they're reviewing my feedback in Waypoint results in a greater uptick of students taking advantage of Grammarly early on in their academic career. And the same goes for the same goes for some of the functionality available on Waypoint. I'm not sure for other grading management systems, but many students don't know that you're able to check your work for potential plagiarism in Waypoint. And making students aware of resources like this can become very, very beneficial later on in future courses where they have to start involving APA formatting, APA references, and ensuring that the support that the assertions that they may be supporting through research are properly cited and formatted so you won't be caught for plagiarism. And then there's resources like live learning and the 24/7 writing center here at UAGC, as well as the 24/7 writing tutors that that students can take advantage of to ensure that their writing and their literacy are meeting the key expectations for course learning outcomes. And ultimately, every educational institution is different. So I encourage you, whenever you're starting to teach a course, to make a top 5 list of student resources that can potentially suggest for you that you can potentially suggest for your students in a way that is engaging and meaningful. And that's what I have for you as far as the Venn diagram exercise, and going over the 3 overlapping sections, as they relate to the original 3 common challenges I addressed at the beginning of this presentation. To quickly summarize, educators should be aware of how imposter syndrome and low literacy skills can potentially make students feel less likely to ask for help. Being proactive as an instructor is critical to student success in an online school. Secondly, using a student-centered approach usually results in higher quality interactions between students and between instructors and students. So like I said, just that personalized feedback is what helps get students through the door faster, and I like to say give them a lot more runway going into the rest of their academic journey at UAGC. And finally, my last point, instructors ought to highlight the resources available at their institution in an enticing way to motivate students to utilize these resources at the onset of their higher education journey. And with that, after summarizing my 3 points, I wanted to quickly thank everybody for joining this conversation and taking the time to listen to my presentation today. And I like my presentation to be interactive, so I'm happy to open the floor to any questions or discuss anything that we may have brought up in the chat. Thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much, Toby. That was a wonderful presentation. And since I am familiar with the course that you teach, I can definitely see how our faculty can benefit from maybe hearing about your presentation today. So are there any questions? In the chat, we have Dawn Jarvis. Dawn Jarvis said that her resource that she likes is UAGC Champs. Candy Crawford says she likes Grammarly and Perla. Book librarian through the university, and Zotero. Are you familiar? Zotero? Are you familiar with any of those?
I'm familiar with all 3. I actually, whenever I was an undergrad, I used Zotero a lot. I believe it's to help you manage all your resources whenever you're compiling research papers, and I found that very, very useful and something that students would also find useful in their future classes beyond Gen 101. Because as I mentioned, APA formatting is something that's going to be required in many undergraduate courses, and if you wanted to pursue advanced education, that's going to be important. So getting used to systems like that, whether it's Zotero or a similar competing software technology, is something that I find very, very beneficial. So I appreciate you mentioning that. And then Champs, I haven't used that as much in my experience here at Gen 101, so I have to definitely use that. I believe it's just it helps familiarize students with what's available at UAGC. So again, another resource that I'll have to check it more into, because like I said, it's just good to see what everyone else finds helpful, and leaning on that to make everyone's educational experience at the onset much better.
Maybe we can ask Dr. Jarvis what she likes about Champs,
Sure.
if she's available. I don't know. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, Champs is the mentoring program available at UAGC. So it's really great for those first time incoming students. It helps get you familiar with the university. It helps you get familiar with all the university resources. They provide you with a mentor that will help walk you through not only classes, but all the university resources. It's really that one-on-one support to give students right when you're coming in. So that sense of belonging that you're really talking about, they really help provide that right when you're coming into the university. It's absolutely a wonderful program to get involved in. And they have different tiers. So even when you come in as an undergrad, you can move into different tiers as you go through your university experience.
That's really cool to learn. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because as I'm reflecting on what you're saying, it makes sense to just have that extra layer of support that students can take advantage of, because oftentimes you'll get messages in Canvas from your students saying, hey, where can I do this? Or sometimes your student will think you're their advisor. So sometimes just being able to break down different channels of how they can gain support from their institution is ultimately beneficial for their long-term success. So thank you, Dr. Jarvis, for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I have a quick question. We have about 10 minutes left. So what are your thoughts on peer tutoring as an option as well? Because CHAMPS is, those are typically current students who are providing that service to other students. Because sometimes our faculty do a lot, right? They feel like when you talk about instructor productivity, they feel like I've done all these things and I'm, and it can feel a little one-sided sometimes. So what is your response to that?
So peer tutoring, my understanding is that would be another student that would be helping them, giving them a perspective. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I like that you mentioned that as well because sometimes the perspective from your instructor or your advisor can sometimes be seen as like authoritative, not authoritative, but a sense of like I have to do this versus a peer mentor is giving you advice based on their own personal experience. Just as a quick aside, I also, like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a doctoral student here at UAGC. So I leverage my experiences being a student here at UAGC all the time, whether it's helping students understand the great functionality of the calendar functions, so you can know exactly when your assignments are on every single day. Little things like that. I think the peer mentor program would be very, very beneficial for students because just getting that instead of outside inside perspective of what they may be going through in the future can ultimately not make or break, but help them have more runway going into the future of their academic success.
And just like office hours, I know in Canvas, I'm not sure what other learning management systems people are using, but using the big blue button feature in Canvas, it's a quick and easy way to have office hours without leaving the application. And I think that that is one of the ways that a lot of faculty engage as well, providing just kind of, when I schedule office hours, I will just open a big blue button and I can continue working while I wait for students to drop in. And sometimes they drop in and sometimes they don't, but at least they know that I'm there if they need me. It
Absolutely.
can be,
And
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Was somebody gonna say something?
Oh, no, go ahead, Toby. I was going to read something in the
Oh,
chat. But go ahead.
yeah, no problem. To your point about Big Blue Button, I don't think I probably maybe glossed over this in my presentation, but that element of live learning is something that I think students may come to expect that at their educational institution, whether it's asynchronous or live or a live model. Just having that extra sense of humanity in the learning process, I believe, is something that we should definitely be taking more advantage of here at UAGC. So I appreciate you mentioning the big blue button and different ways to host office hours to get students engaged in a personalized format.
Yeah. Candy Crawford said, we have faculty mentors, but in our PhD program, they encouraged us to use peer support too. We created a cohort connection hour where we meet twice a week. It's just us. Love that, Candy. I know I'm in a couple of Facebook groups and there was a student needing help with her chapter 2. And the questions she was asking would have been better served her asking a cohort, her group of students who are in the current program that she's in. And I suggested that she do that. We would meet in Zooms over, you can meet on Saturday mornings for a couple of hours. But I love that you all have a nice name for a cohort connection hour. I love that. Toby, do you have something similar in your doctoral program?
So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call this a resource, but whenever I was doing my virtual in residence sessions, that was, I guess, the lift off point for us to learn more about other people on the similar journey as each other, so we can all connect. So you mentioned Facebook, in all of my in residence sessions, that just provided me the names and emails of everybody that I can reach out to. So I would reach out to them on LinkedIn. And now it's become to the point where students are not, or I guess students as well, are reaching out to me saying, hey, where did you find, or how did you upload this into DSEM? I need help with it. And just being able to share those insights without having to ring up our program chair every single time we have a simple question can just make everybody's lives more collaborative and easier for the instructor.
Right. And the language I use with her is that the dissertation process is the learning. That's the learning, no one expects you to know what you're doing because you're learning how to write a dissertation. But I think a lot of students, that's my timer. I think a lot of students feel like that the instructors expect them to already know these things, and we don't. But we also think that you can help one another. So I think peer support and instructor proactivity are very instrumental in how we can help students increase their confidence, increase their connection. And we actually have written a proposal to study how all of those little nuances work, Toby. So I think you'll be interested to find out, like even adding the podcast, open educational resources, adding all of this, trying to find just the right mix, right, to see what we can do to help our students feel confident, which then enhances their ability to connect with the university. So thank you. So I'm just going to go over some particulars right now. I'm going to put in the chat the link for the evaluation. So please complete that. We'd like to thank Attah for his presentation today, and for all of you that are attending the sessions in the ADEIL conference today. Please be sure to complete the link, the conference evaluation in that link, and enjoy the rest of your day at the ADEIL conference. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Take care.